Hi everyone and welcome to my SPED talk. My name is Daniel Craig and I'll be doing my SPED talk on AWS Lambda, which is the service that's providing the back end of our Alexa skill that's our senior project. You will have seen Jake Aldridge's senior project SPED talk as well, and he's in the same group that I'm in. The two of us are making an Alexa skill that interfaces with Family Search to transcribe family stories and to upload them to Family Search. So think of it almost as an Alexa skill that interviews you and records your family stories to Family Search. I have to apologize that I'm in an airport right now. I hope that the talk's informative and enjoyable just the same, despite how much talking I'm doing. So AWS Lambda is an example of what's called serverless computing. So serverless computing is all about the idea that, for example, in the case of Amazon, they have a lot of infrastructure that is probably sitting idle at any given time. And so instead of letting it sit idle, they let developers run code basically as a service is what the whole buzzword is. So basically they call this functions as a service, or FaaS. And from their documentation, they say that building serverless applications mean that your developers can focus on their core product instead of worrying about managing or operating servers or runtimes, either in the cloud or on premises. So it just allows developers a way to have this code run. It's invoked by making a request to an endpoint that Amazon provides. And basically, it just allows for developers' code to be run in really convenient ways. Like, you don't have to configure any servers or have any services running. Basically, it just takes care of all that for you. So it's been a real piece of cake because we've worked with it in our project. So I'd like to point out that Lambda is not unique in, Amazon's not unique in providing functions as a service in their cloud services. So they have lots of competitors. They have Google Cloud Functions and Azure as well from Microsoft and from Google. But in our case, we chose Lambda because it interfaces just so much more naturally with Alexa and with S3 and with Kinesis and with the other Amazon services. Well, in our case, we're only using S3 and Alexa. But lots of developers will be tempted by the other Amazon Web Services that there are, and Lambda is just a nice go-between between a lot of them, particularly for data applications and things with live data. So it's really tempting for that reason. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about the code that we have. You may have seen some of it on Jake's project report as well in his SPED talk. So I apologize for that. But I'd like to point out here just a couple of details in the time that I still have. So this is the code for our Lambda that supports the Alexa skill that we have. So Jake's going to talk more about some of the details of this, I believe, but you can see that it's written in Python, that it makes imports just like a normal Python program, that it has functions just like a normal Python program, and with Alexa specifically, there's a lot of things that need to be done with regards to like handling events and handling intents that are passed to it from the Lambda interaction model. So that's not really the intent of what I want to talk about today. I'm more interested in talking about Lambda itself and not necessarily about Alexa and how that all interfaces. So my main points from wanting to show you this was just that it's all written in Python, that you make imports just like normal. This is the Alexa Skills Kit, the SDK that Amazon provides. And so I'll just talk for a second about how this is deployed. So basically our deploy is all done autonomously. So this is our travis.yaml file, and it's okay if this is the first time you've ever seen a travis.yaml. What I want to point out here is just that it deploys it to Lambda. It has to provide the access key and secret access key to a role in Amazon Web Services that has the rights to deploy to S3 and to Lambda. And so this basically all gets zipped up before deploy right here. It zips up everything. puts it into this zip file, and then the zip that it provides to Lambda is that zip file that it generates. And then it has to specify a couple other details about it, particularly the runtime, the module name, the handler name, all those things. And then it just pushes that up into S3 and into Lambda. So it's a great way to have your code deploy straightforward, easily, particularly good for things that are, for example, like happen sporadically, like if there's visits to your website sporadically, or if there's architecture of website that is visited less frequently than other parts, or that's very compute intensive but needs to be very scalable, you can sort of off-source it to Lambda. One example that's frequently cited is the use of Lambda to do processing on DNA information, because there's so much of it and it's so compute intensive. It wouldn't make sense to have enough compute resources to run that process on the same servers that you're, like, for example, like MyHeritage or 23andMe or something is running on. So instead, they off-source all that processing to Lambda, and they host the website themselves. Another example is something like this, where, you know, in the case of an Alexa skill, only sporadically are you going to need the infrastructure for this backend service. You know, only sporadically are users going to be accessing it. So it doesn't make sense to pay for infrastructure while you're not using it, and so you save money because you're only being charged for what's actually being used. Just to kind of wrap up my talk, I'd just like to say that this is kind of one of the biggest examples of the benefits that using a cloud provider can offer, because you benefit from Amazon's like sheer scale. When they have this the size that they are, they have resources that they don't need that they can offer to users at this more convenient price point. So it's a really convenient thing for developers and for those that need to maintain infrastructure, just to be able to you know, keep all their infrastructure scalable and flexible. They can benefit from this economy of scale that Amazon has. So I just recommend looking into Lambda. You'll find that there's a lot more material on it than you'd expect. It's actually kind of easy to jump into, and that it'll interface with S3 a lot, and that'll, like, those two skills alone with Lambda and S3, and then add in like a serverless NoSQL database, that will make you a very valuable developer in today's world. So I'd recommend it to everyone. And Travis gets thrown in there as well. Continuous integration is also something that I've come to appreciate. So I'd like to thank everyone for listening to my talk. And if you have any more questions, feel free to message me. And I do apologize for being in an airport, but thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.